Okay, so I wanted to get this review out a lot earlier. I'm sorry, A Reaper at the Gates actually comes out today. I'm literally gonna film this and then go out and get it. But I was busy all this weekend, and I stayed up till like 3 a.m. last night catching up on E3. So, but you're not here to hear about that. Let's talk about A Torch Against the Night. Go!
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
So, in a lot of ways, A Torch Against the Night is basically a perfect sequel. Because, I mean, I already loved An Ember in the Ashes, even if the title was kind of weird and there were one or two wonky bits. Like, I did absolutely love it. It had an interesting plot that I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go at first, and by the end it had completely veered off in its own way. It had two extremely good main characters that were not annoying or anything, and it really did have a dark side to it that a lot of young adult stuff just doesn't have. You know, like I said before, it acts as though it's really dark and gritty and violent without actually being dark or gritty or violent, and so they just feel fake, whereas this one, it actually has that, so it feels a lot more raw and a lot more real. And this book continues the story, basically. You know, there's not a whole lot else left to say. Like, it picks up immediately where An Ember in the Ashes left off, like Elias, or Elias, I honestly don't know how to say his name, so I'm going to be saying it like 4 different ways. If that bothers you, I'm sorry. So yeah, Elias and Laia just escaped his execution, and they're running away from Blackcliff, and as they're doing that, the Scholar Rebellion erupts, and they start fighting off the Empire soldiers, and then they just try to escape. And they're actually heading for Kauf prison, where Laia's brother was taken during the last book, to try and break him out, because that was Elias's promise to her after she saved his life. And the majority of the story is just them traveling up to Kauf prison and rescuing her brother. However, in this book, we also get a lot of chapters from the point of view of Helene. And after the last book, when Marcus was made Emperor, she actually got made his Blood Shrike, which is his Prime Minister, I guess. It's just a really edgy name for a Prime Minister. But, yeah, she was made his Blood Shrike, and so through her eyes, we're starting to see like more of a grand picture of what's going on in the Empire, and we're also starting to get a picture of what's going on with Marcus, because he's slowly losing his fucking mind, and we're also seeing what's happening with her, which is, to be frank, it's mostly just being kind of annoying and bitchy. But first I want to talk about Laia and Elias. So as they're escaping the city, Elias actually gets poisoned, and it's not a poison that they have an antidote for, but it's also not one that'll kill him quickly. Like they say, it'll take months and months to actually kill him. And so, as the journey is going on, he's slowly dying. And he knows it, and Laia knows it, and the readers know it. And it happens early on, so it's not much of a spoiler, really. And so, he just becomes a lot more fatalistic in this book. And in the last one, he sort of was. And it made it clear he really, really hated the Empire, and he just wanted to leave. Whereas in this one, it's that, you know, he's dying, and as his last act, he wants to hurt them. He wants to fight back against them, and he wants to give other people the chance to fight back. And that's why, or that's part of the reason why he's going to help rescue Laia's brother Darren, because he actually knows the secret to making their steel, which no other countries have, and so their weapons will break against martial steel. So, you know, if other countries have it, they can fight back against the Empire, and it won't be good. So watching him go from this really depressed, angry dude who just doesn't feel like he has much purpose other than to try and get away from all the fighting and everything, and go to being a much more motivated, much more, what's the word? Just more of a fighter, really. I know that might seem strange because, you know, in the first one, he was a super badass warrior, and he still is in this one. It's just that, you know, he didn't have much of a purpose in the first one, and this one he does, even though he's still kind of the same dude. And Laia is pretty much the same she's always been. Like, she's super, super sympathetic, because, again, you're feeling like all this shit has been thrown at her, and you just feel so bad for her all the time. But she doesn't take it lying down. Like, Like I said, she's journeying across the entire empire trying to save her brother because he's the only family she has left. And honestly, you don't even really get the feeling that she's doing this for the rebellion so that they can make better weapons or anything. You feel like she's just doing this to save her brother. Like, even if he was useless to the rebellion, she'd still be doing the same thing. And, you know, that's really good. And you also see that she has this really deep kindness to her, which I don't think was really in the first book. Like, you see how she wants to protect those who are less fortunate than her, which is not a whole lot of people, to be honest, because she's pretty fucking unfortunate. But, you know, she wants to protect people, and she wants to help fight back against the King of the Jinn and the Augurs. Or, honestly, I'm still not sure what the Augurs are up to in this, and I don't think any of the main characters are either. Like, they're just going around telling people to do things, but I'm not sure if they can see the future or not. It's kind of weird. And now we arrive at Helene. So, like I said, Helene is the third POV character in this book, and that's kind of bad to begin with because it's all in first person. So, just having two characters can, on rare occasions, get a little confusing, because Laia and Elias's voices, their narrative voices, just aren't that distinct from one another, so it can be easy to get confused there. But usually it's not too bad if there's only two characters, it's easier to keep track of. But then when you add three characters who don't really have distinctive voices from one another, you can easily lose track. And so that becomes a problem pretty early on. And even without that, Helene is honestly pretty annoying in this book. Like, she starts off okay, you know, she's getting tortured, and they send her off to find Elias as the Blood Shrike, and she's seeing sort of the political situation in the Empire, how things are turning out, how Marcus is consolidating his power as Emperor. But the thing is, it makes it clear from the beginning that she really fucking hates Marcus, and she doesn't want to help him, but then she just does it. And at the beginning, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Later on, you sort of see how she's brainwashed herself into thinking that, yes, this is the right action, even though Marcus is forcing her to do absolutely horrendous things, and other people in the Empire, especially the Commandant, are doing absolutely horrendous things. And she's even saying, like, oh my god, this is absolutely horrendous, but she also seems to have convinced herself that the Empire is, like, the best, most civilized place in the world. And she kind of briefly mentions, like, people outside the Empire, oh, they do all this horrible shit, therefore we're the best. And it's like, okay, I guess I don't have to agree with that. I can at least see where she's coming from. But still, it's just, you're supposed to feel really sympathetic for her, and you're supposed to understand that, okay, yeah, she's cutting herself off from her family and friends, and she's doing all this horrible shit that she doesn't want to do to protect the Empire, but it's really hard to sympathize with her, considering that she admits that the Empire is genociding people, and they keep slaves, and they just do all this horrible, nasty shit. And so, yeah, Helene just comes across as more annoying and stupid than she does tragic or sympathetic. And so, at the beginning, her chapters were fine, but around the 3/4 mark, they get pretty fucking bad, and by the end, I was just face-palming really hard. So that's about all. I mean, the ending of this was also fucking crazy, but I'm not going to talk too much about that. But suffice to say, it immediately made me want to read the next book, so I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to go get Reaper at the Gates. If you've already read An Ember in the Ashes, read A Torch Against the Night. If you haven't read An Ember in the Ashes, go read that, and then read A Torch Against the Night. And then read A Reaper at the Gates, because I'm sure that'll be great too.